Say whatever you want about Dr. Umar Johnson, but one thing that has been thoroughly verified and cannot be disputed is that his academic credentials are legitimate. His degrees are real. And Dr. Umar himself has never been shy about acknowledging his own complexities. In his own words, yes, his internal self-talk sometimes spills out externally. And yes, he openly admits that self-talk can lean narcissistic. At least he's honest about it. Now, the Cheyenne situation continues to linger, and despite how much noise it has generated, concrete proof has yet to surface. But here's what makes Dr. Umar's position particularly interesting in all of this. He actually told us exactly what was going on before he walked it back, before he shifted into a more carefully worded, politically safe response in recent interviews. He gave a much more revealing answer. And that answer came during his appearance.
Dr. Umar Johnson was saying,
I believe that Dr. Cheyenne Bryant is quite possibly the same personality type as Nick Cannon and Cam Newton. I believe that all three of you are serial monogamous with narcissistic tendencies.
So to address the first question, which was, do I believe that I have some narcissistic traits in my low-functioning behavior? Absolutely.
There it is. They both agree. Both of their expert opinions have come to the same conclusion.
Traits in my low-functioning behavior. Absolutely. For me to be able to emasculate that man, and he's just loving on me, he's never disempowered me. This man wasn't cheating or beating on me. He was there all day.
do you struggle with the same things that I struggle with? Self-importance.
Not at this level. Do I have a high level of self-love and self-value? Yes. Can my confidence be on steroids sometimes because that's the way I inspire me? Yeah. Does my self-talk show up externally sometimes? Yeah. Is my self-talk narcissistic? Absolutely.
So there it is. She essentially admitted it herself. What she refers to as her self-talk, meaning the internal dialogue she has with herself, is narcissistic by her own description, and people have been saying exactly this for a long time. Now, for legal reasons, and because I am not a licensed professional, I want to be clear that I don't typically attach clinical diagnoses to people's behavior in these conversations. But here's what's hard to ignore. You have Dr. Umar right here, in his own words, drawing a direct comparison between Dr. Cheyenne Bryant's personality and Nick Cannon's. And Nick Cannon is someone who has publicly discussed his own narcissism diagnosis. Two separate professionals arriving at the same conclusion about the same person is not something you can easily dismiss. But that's actually not even the most significant part of this conversation. What stands out more is what this implies about Dr. Cheyenne Bryant's following, the people she refers to as her doc squad. This community has enabled her behavior to a degree that even now, weeks into what can only be described as a combined book tour and complete public meltdown, her supporters are still refusing to hold her accountable. Instead of looking at the situation honestly, they are
strategically went on black men's podcasts who have known issues with sexual discipline. Because
Right?
she's a masterful seducer, okay? A lot of people
Probably.
are talking about her credentials, but not enough people are talking about this. How do we even know who she is? Because somebody put her behind a podcast mic and gave her a platform. Their platform, access to their millions of viewers, okay? Shall I go down the list? Shannon Sharp, Cam Newton, Paul Pierce, Nick Cannon, great entertainers. No doubt I'm not knocking their credentials in their appropriate arenas, but I am knocking for them for never asking. I know Corey Holcomb asked, okay? But
Right?
Corey Holcomb calls every woman a bitch. So
Oh,
we
okay.
didn't asked, okay? But Corey Holcomb calls every woman a bitch. So we didn't really pay too much attention to him when he said that she wasn't a doctor. The bigger conversation outside of credentials and licensure, okay, and what that means for Black people and how hard it is for us to be taken serious when we in fact do have these things, okay? The bigger conversation is, why as a community are we this?
Hold on, let's slow down for a second here, because what's being said right now is important, and it needs to be addressed directly. We actually called this out. We raised these concerns early on, and the response from that same community was to tell us to sit down and be quiet. And now that same energy is being directed at Corey Holcomb, shutting down the conversation before it even gets started. But here's the bigger picture. This isn't just about one situation or one personality. This is a symptom of a pattern that runs much deeper. There's a persistent unwillingness to genuinely hear what Black men are saying. And the track record shows that Black men have been right about a significant number of things, including things that are still being dismissed or debated right now. The passage of time tends to prove that out. Think about it this way. We readily acknowledge feminine intuition as something real and worth respecting. That same energy and that same level of respect should be extended to the perspective and wisdom that Black men have been consistently offering. Instead of reflexively pushing back on it, maybe the more productive response is to actually sit with it, listen to it, consider it honestly before rejecting it. Because Black men are not wrong about this. They have not been wrong, and you cannot keep taking the worst possible examples from any group of people and then applying that standard to everyone in that group. The worst examples of Black men do not represent all Black men. That logic doesn't hold up, and deep down, most
Black women, we have our own weaknesses too. We had the Derek Jacksons and other
Yeah.
people, but why as a community do we let anybody get in front of a podcast mic and move the needle, to turn the temperature of our subconscious?
I wonder.
Why have we allowed this? Who dropped the podcast mics on the Black community?
Well, as I
The way I see it, there need to be more voices in this conversation, and more importantly, people need to start choosing whose voices they actually listen to more carefully, because the pattern of tuning out the right people while amplifying the wrong ones has consequences, and we're watching those consequences play out in real time. Some pages and platforms have blown up in ways that genuinely defy explanation, but the audience chose it, and that's their right. And here's something that needs to be said clearly. Black men were extending Cheyenne Bryant the benefit of the doubt. Why? Because that's what we've been conditioned to do. Give Black women the benefit of the doubt across the board, in every situation. If you say you're a doctor, the default response has been to accept that and move forward. And what has that goodwill produced in return? Black men getting blamed for everything regardless of what they do or don't do. The image of the Black man in popular culture right now is someone who simply cannot get anything right, no matter the effort, no matter the intention, no matter how early or clearly the warning comes. Kevin Samuels spent years saying he wanted to strengthen the Black family structure. People refused to hear it. Why? Because he was a man, and apparently that automatically disqualified the message. That's the contradiction that keeps repeating itself. And here's what makes it even striking. Some of the talking points that Cheyenne Bryant eventually started using, the ones that actually resonated, the ones that made people pause and say, wait, she might be onto something, those came directly from Black men. A pretty face attached to a man's perspective suddenly generates millions of followers and millions of Instagram engagements. That happens constantly, and nobody wants to acknowledge it. Now, on the question of credentials, this has moved well beyond debate at this point. Cheyenne Bryant has not produced any verifiable documentation proving she holds a doctorate. None. Given that reality, the title of doctor should no longer be applied to her going forward. If people still want to engage with her content, the most accurate description would be life coach, though even that framing becomes difficult to justify given everything that has come to light. There are clear personality-related issues that she herself has partially acknowledged, and the stubborn refusal to simply admit the truth is making everything worse. Some people have pointed to the fact that she has a trademark on her name as a justification for using the doctor title. But a trademark does not validate a clinical credential, and it certainly provides no cover when you're actively presenting yourself as a psychologist and a therapist to a vulnerable audience.
A licensed psychologist with 17 years of private practice experience made that point clearly. Holding yourself out as a mental health professional without the qualifications to back it up is not just misleading, it can carry serious legal consequences. For everyone saying this conversation is just about tearing someone down, consider the comparison. Dr. Phil has verifiable degrees. Dr. Oz is a licensed medical doctor. Iyanla Vanzant never once called herself a doctor, and she actually holds a law degree that she can verify at any time. Every person being held up as a parallel example in this conversation has documentation that stands up to scrutiny. Cheyenne Bryant does not. What this situation actually calls for, and this is a genuine observation, is something along the lines of a real intervention, an Iyanla fix-my-lifestyle moment, where someone who genuinely cares about this woman sits her down and has an honest conversation with her. Because the real question that keeps going unanswered is, where are her